I had a person tell me that they're confused about our intros the last couple of weeks because they didn't have anything to do with what we talked about. But I was like,
it's kind of the purpose of an intro.
That's the purpose of an intro,
it's just a little stinger.
It doesn't always have to set the stage for the conversation. Just say hi.
It could.
A little warm up.
Set the stage.
Roll
the intro.
That was on purpose too.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Subject Matter. I'm your host, Stephen Jenkins, here with your co-host, Mr. Jonathan Dayton, and special guest... What's your name?
Michael Jenkins.
I don't know him! Anyway, we're experts in nothing here to give you our thoughts and opinions on all of it. So, yes, Michael Jenkins is my brother. We had my sister on back last year at some point talking about clogging. Michael is going to talk about his passion today, which is tap dance. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's tap dance. So, Michael, take it away. Go ahead and tell us about your life as a tap dancer.
I've been tap dancing since I was 3. Much longer than my sister's been clogging, actually. I didn't enjoy when she said that clogging was much more skill required than tap dancing. It's not true. Clogging is just competitive stomping. Whereas, tap dancing...
honestly, it's true.
Tap dancing is much more rhythmic and, in my opinion, a little more precision required.
Obviously.
So
here's the thing you got to know about Michael. Michael is, when you're trying to do a joke and you need somebody to just kind of go along with it, Michael's probably your guy, yeah. So, he doesn't tap dance.
I've never tap danced.
In case you couldn't tell by our facial expressions throughout the entire thing, Michael does not tap dance. Our actual topic today is going to be on movies. Michael wanted to talk about movies. He originally wanted to talk about specifically Nintendo video games, but I think there's enough of other guests that have been on the show and other guests you want to have on the show that have some expertise in the video game area, so we're going to save that for a later episode. Don't forget, if you have a specific topic you want us to cover in an episode, let us know. We'll bring on a guest that has some sort of knowledge in that area, or we'll just throw somebody in there and we'll kind of jump into the deep end. So, first thing about movies we're going to discuss, I think just to kick it off, what is, Jonathan, your favorite movie if you have one?
Ladder 49.
What is it?
Ladder 49.
Ladder 49.
Probably a movie that neither of you have seen before.
I have not seen it.
I've never heard
John
of it.
Travolta is in the movie.
Okay.
So there's some famous actors in the movie. It's a firefighting movie set in Baltimore City, Maryland. So it's kind of local to us. Same state.
Interesting. What year did this come out? Do you know?
Well, probably early 2000s.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So it's you said it's a firefighter movie.
It's a firefighter movie. It's the short version of it is as a firefighter that falls in love, gets married, and he is tragically killed in a fire, but they do some flashbacks while he's down in the fire.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting and neat. And it's all set in Baltimore, too, so if you're from Maryland, then you get to see actual fire trucks from Baltimore.
We're like 2 hours away
from
Baltimore.
Is this like a true story? Or like based on a true story?
Yes.
Same thing.
Based on a true story.
Okay, so based on a true story, that was going to bring me to one of my next questions, but we'll get to that in a second. So, Michael, what is your favorite movie?
Lord of the Rings.
Which one?
All of them.
Nope, you have to choose
If
one.
I had to pick, I'd pick number 2.
Number 2. Interesting.
And more specifically, the extended edition, which is 4 hours long. I've never watched the non-extended edition.
All right, so extended edition, Lord of the Rings 2, and why do you like Lord of the Rings 2 above all other movies?
Because the story is already developed enough, so like when you're watching it, you can kind of reference things in the previous movie.
Okay.
It's also it's not the climax, but it has a lot of build up to it, and it also just has a lot of like my favorite scenes, my favorite places that they visit, the locations, right? The different things that happen are really cool, and it also has Gollum in it the most, so that's pretty fun.
Okay, so if you just noticed a change in our audio quality, which hopefully you did, because if you didn't notice a change in audio quality, then we need to throw this microphone out. But we were recording from the wrong input. So just know that if you heard a change in the audio, that's why. As you were saying, you just like it because is Gollum one of your favorite characters then, or is that?
Not necessarily one of my favorites. He's very iconic and kind
Okay.
of creepy, and he kind of helps like just set the stage for the whole movie.
Give us your best Gollum.
I don't know. I'm not that demonic. I don't know how to do that.
As a matter
I
of
was
fact-
so ready for this.
Well, I am.
He was like prepping, and it was like nothing.
Yeah, I have nothing.
Got him, precious. They're thieves. I want my precious.
I don't know if he has. I haven't watched it in a long time.
Yeah,
Was
that's
that
ba-
decent?
Yeah,
Was that
I mean that's
decent?
basic. It's a little
Berate
literal.
my Gollum impression in the comment section. My favorite movie of all time, which if anybody's known me for any length of time, you should know this. It's The Incredibles. And the reason why I say that anybody who's known me for any length of time is because usually one of my big icebreakers when I'm doing something interesting about me is that I can in fact recite the entire Incredibles movie. And you think, oh, he just means like he can recite it pretty well. It's like, no, generally speaking, save for a few scenes where I really got to try, I can sit and recite the entire movie from start to finish. And in times where I've gotten bored, like at work when there's not much going on, I have sat there and kind of just recited the entire thing in my head as I do my work. So
I believe that.
it's my favorite movie. I will admit that there's a lot of nostalgia that plays into that because it was the first superhero movie that I saw. It came
fair.
out when I was, I don't know, probably around the time that I actually gained consciousness as a child, starting at about 3 or 4 years old. Sort of became self-aware and started to, really enjoy movies just in general. I mean, I kind of liked Finding Nemo before that, but Incredibles was the first one that I really connected with. And looking back, even now, I mean, I think it still holds up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Still a good story. I'd argue Pixar's best. Sequel came out, 15 years later? And it was good. Not quite as good as the first one, but I still liked the second Incredibles very much.
For a sequel, it was very good.
For a sequel, it was pretty good. Had my issues with it, but it was definitely good. So, fiction, nonfiction. Would you say that if you're going to watch a movie, you prefer nonfiction, or does that just happen to be...
They just happened to be it.
Okay.
I watched both, so I don't have preference either way.
Don't have preference. Okay. What about you?
I have a hard time really enjoying like movies based on real life stories. I guess just because when I go to a movie, it's not to like relate to it. It's to kind of explore a different world and like enter into like a world where impossible things happen. I mean, I do enjoy a true story every now and again.
Mhm.
Like I actually really like Soul Surfer. A couple movies more like that.
Soul Surfer's good, yeah.
But I guess I just don't like having a movie that you can relate to as much as I do the fictional.
That makes sense. I, too, prefer fictional, generally speaking. And I think the reason is, people always say, oh, it's just turn your brain off escapism. But no, it's like I want to see what sort of concepts people came up with as far as the fiction goes. What's the fictional aspect of this that really makes it interesting? And this is so film studies of me, but what in this fictional universe is just a reflection of the real world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, it is sort of escapism at some points, but that's not the exact reason why I want to watch it. As far as nonfiction goes, I'm the type of person who, if I'm watching a movie that's nonfiction, and I know for a fact that they took a lot of creative liberties with that source material, it'll take me out of the movie. Because, in essence, you're just doing fiction, but selling it as a real story. And I'm much more interested in knowing exactly how something happened so that I can actually feel that I'm watching this real person go through something. An example that I'll give of this, and I don't think either of you have seen this, but an example is a movie that just came out a couple months ago called Being the Ricardos. It follows Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz and their whole story. The issue that I had with it was that there's a lot of creative liberties taken in the sort of order of events. Some of the things that took place in the movie did take place, but they didn't happen in the same order. And the movie takes place over the span of a week, whereas these events were all mumble-jumbled and mixed out through about 5 years. That kind of took me out of the movie just because it's like, okay, I know that this didn't exactly happen that exact same way. Do you feel that kind of when you watch a non-fictional movie, or?
Yeah, I agree that I like things played out. If it's a real life, I like it played out the way it was played out in real life.
Sure.
Because I want to know the true story. When they take creative liberties and kind of go off script of what actually happened, it's interesting, but it's not my favorite.
I can understand that. One example that I liked, and I don't know, you might have seen it, I doubt whether you've seen it, Hacksaw Ridge, which came out about 6 years ago. True story, true war story, basically, World War II. This guy, played by Andrew Garfield, he was a Seventh-day Adventist person, and he basically said, my religious belief is I don't want to carry a gun. But he wanted to fight. He wanted to go into the war. And so he basically went in as a medic and single-handedly essentially saved a whole bunch of people. The interesting thing, and this is where I will say an exception is made for me as far as taking creative liberties. The director, Mel Gibson, changed the ending of the story to not completely match what actually happened in real life. And his reasoning for it is because what actually happened was less believable than what he had in the movie. It's kind of an over-the-top ending in the movie where he basically kicks a grenade back to the enemy. Like, he rushes this dude, kicks a grenade, and he flies back and everything. It's actually pretty over-the-top if it was fiction. But what happened, and then I read what actually happened in real life, and it's 10 times more crazy than what actually happened in the movie. So I think that particular scenario actually makes it more interesting to know that. But we're kind of at around the close to the halfway mark here. So what I'd like to do is do some hypothetical would you rather based on specific movies.
Okay.
I had said before, and I'll start off with mine. So if you guys have any ideas, be thinking of some of these. So I've said before that my favorite movie was The Incredibles.
Yes.
Superhero genre is technically the one that I gravitate to the most, just because there's so many of it. My favorite plot type, I think, has to do with time travel. So, would you rather enter a world where you could time travel, or would you rather enter a world where you could hop from planet to planet, like kind of go outer space?
Okay, so in the world where you're hopping planet to planet,
I knew we were going to get specific with this. Okay,
yes,
continue.
hang on. Is it the planets of that world?
So let's say,
if it was Star Wars, could you hop from like Naboo to Tatooine?
Fair enough. Fair question. Let's say this is our world, but let's just say that in the scenario where you're hopping to planet, there's aliens and you're actually getting to go explore the galaxy.
Life at the
There's actually
planet.
right. In the time travel, that's not the case. It's just you get to time travel. For me, I would choose time travel because I've always wanted to time travel and actually like go back and figure out, like, sometimes even like true history. You could like really pick up some serious conspiracy theory type thing, like, oh, this is actually how it happened, and really see, how that progressed. But that's just me. Michael?
I mean, okay, if I could hop planet to planet and there were other aliens, I'm sure they could do the same, which is slightly terrifying because we don't know what those are.
Okay.
Fair.
So for me, I'd probably have to say time travel because
All
I feel like there's less of a risk of really,
He doesn't want to start a war.
terrifying things. Right. I don't
right.
want planetary war to happen.
Okay.
But then
All right.
again, I mean,
Safety of the universe.
if we have planetary travel, I'm hoping that we'd also have measures in place to prevent planetary war. We'd also
Okay.
have those weapons, but
I like the way you're
Alright.
thinking.
still wouldn't like that.
All right. Jonathan, what about you?
Time travel for sure.
Time travel. So I'll go with time travel.
I'm a huge history buff. If people didn't
Same.
realize that, I love history.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it in school. Still love it now. So I would love to go back in time to see.
Just to see, even for me too. I just want to go back and like even to the, and I'm only 22, but I kind of want to remind myself what was it like, in 2005, like,
Yeah.
what kind of
different world back then.
even just simple things, like you just see like different logos for different brands have evolved, and it's like it just felt sort of different.
Well, when I was that age, I remember going to my grandparents watching Elmo on the VCR. Now,
What's a VCR?
what's a VCR? What's a DVD player? What's Blu-ray now? I mean, we've evolved so much
Mm-hmm.
that now it's just pull out your phone and just watch the thing on your phone.
Yeah.
Streaming. It's crazy, just in the amount of time we've been alive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you guys have any other hypotheticals? Because I got a bunch of them racking in my brain, but if you have something, I'm going to let you guys jump in.
it's not really a would you rather.
It doesn't have to be a would you, just sort of an interesting question regarding that.
If you could live in any fictional movie world, which one would it be? And it wouldn't have to be like indefinite. It would just, you spend like a month there or something like that.
There's got to be some sort of consequence. So, like, if you do that, like, you can only choose one. You can never go to another universe.
Right.
I know a lot of people would want to say Star Wars.
That's where my mind was going.
A lot of people would want to say Star Wars.
I think
that's hard to say no to Star Wars.
I think a big part of it depends what time frame are you going to be in.
Let's just say you can choose.
Okay, yeah,
you can hop back and forth.
Yeah.
What about you? Let's go with you. What would you choose?
It would be either Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I feel like there'd be a lot of fun stuff that you can do in Star Wars. Lord of the Rings would be interesting to experience.
Are you going into these worlds as somebody who can... So, for example, one of the big things in Star Wars is like, okay, the Force.
Right.
Do you enter as a Force user? In your case, do you enter as like a regular human? You enter the Hobbit universe, or the Lord of the Rings universe. Are you entering as a wizard? Or, let's say, just entering as a regular human.
Okay, entering as a regular human?
Let's just say you're entering as yourself.
Well, in that case, it would definitely be Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Because I feel like there are more things you could do there, like exploration-wise, that would be really cool. I mean, Star Wars would be cool, but if you're just a regular human, you're very limited as to what you can actually do physically.
So if I was going to enter a place, you kind of got to think strategically here. So for me, I want to enter a place where you could have the ability to see the most. So you'd want to enter a place where you can travel from planet to planet.
Okay.
In my mind. Because that way you can explore as many worlds as you want.
Right.
Now for me personally, and this is going to get me a lot of hate, but for me personally, I would go with the Star Trek universe over the Star Wars universe. As much as it pains me that I wouldn't be able to hold a lightsaber.
Well, if you're going as a regular person,
but if I'm going as a regular
person
and I might not going to be able to use a lightsaber quite as well, so I'm not a Jedi. So I'm going as a regular person. I've always wanted to use the Star Trek transporter, for one thing. Beam me from one place to another.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool. There's a lot of deep lore in the Star Trek universe, which I won't really get into. But
I mean,
they have a lot
have you
of
explored any lore
planets.
of Star Wars?
I know there's a lot of deep lore in Star Wars. I'm not denying that, but it's a different type of it's a different type of lore, and time travel is also possible in the Star Trek universe as well. So I feel like you get the best of both worlds in Star Trek. That's a reference that I just made. So if you're a Star Trek fan and you got that reference, let me know.
I didn't get that reference.
I know you didn't. Neither did you. Anyway,
I did not get that.
Where would you?
I would say Star
yourself?
Wars, but I'm going somewhere completely different.
Okay.
Somewhere with some animated characters. There are some human figures, but they're not actual humans. I mean, you'll get it when I say the movie here in a minute.
Okay.
Shrek.
Space Jam. Oh, Shrek. Okay.
Shrek.
All right.
Let me tell you the reason why. I really want to talk to Donkey.
You
think I'm joking?
No, I don't think you're
But
joking. I believe you.
as a human, there are human-like figures in the movie Shrek, of course.
Sure. Okay.
There's also some animated characters. And there's Pinocchio, and there's Donkey, and I think just being in that setting would be neat. Plus, I mean, the landscape. You could see a lot.
I like
that.
that. That's a good. I am going to say I like your strategic reasoning, my strategic reasoning. I want to talk to Donkey.
There's no real reasoning. But I found it interesting.
I appreciate
cool.
that
I
answer.
like that. Yeah.
I do want to address, and I think people might be surprised that neither you or I picked the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
The reason why I want to pick the Marvel Universe is because you got a pretty high chance of dying if you enter the Marvel Universe.
And it's
a
basically
lot
just
of people die.
It's also basically just this world.
It is our world. There's a lot of different, stuff to it, but it would be harder for you to partake in the wonder of the Marvel Universe as a lowly human.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, that's good. Do you have a hypothetical to ask, or?
It's not a would you rather question, but
Okay.
is knowing your favorite movie is The Incredibles. If you had to choose a superpower, it could be from The Incredibles or just in general. What would it be?
I have sat and thought long and hard about this particular answer. Should the day arise where I get to choose, and I go back and forth between 3.
Okay.
Actually, a correction. I've really narrowed it down to 2. I used to think like invisibility or mind reading would be cool.
Yeah.
Kind of gone away with them. The 2 ones that I struggle with the most are super speed, specifically super speed in like the way the Flash does it, where he has lightning perception too, so he can like see things in slow motion. Because if you just have super speed but you can't react to what's around you, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
So we're specifically going with that. So super speed, sort of in the way that the Flash has it, or just flight in general. Because I've always wanted to be able to. I mean, you can parasail and you can do sort of the hang gliding and things like that, but to really just be able to just lift off and fly, I think would be pretty cool. I think in my day-to-day life, I'd use super speed more. I think being able to just do things super quick and then be done for the day would probably...
Yeah.
And I think...
I mean, think about travel, though. Like, you could travel... I mean, I guess it all depends on how fast you can fly.
True, but I'm also thinking, even if you have super speed, you just run anywhere,
That's true.
depending on how fast you can get. What about you?
I've also narrowed down to 2. The exact same 2 that you just said.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know. I've always said flight for the longest time. I think flying would be very cool, very neat. It also depends how fast you can fly. Right. It also depends on how fast you can run or move or transport, or how we're going to phrase it. Because there's water around the place. Right. So, but I think flying. I think seeing the world from above would be very neat.
See, now I'm going back on my answer, but yeah. I go back and forth between this. A good consolation for me, by the way, would be teleportation. Yeah, because I think you could like teleport yourself, and you could like kind of get that free fall effect of the flying. Yeah. It could solve the distance issue where you can just teleport wherever you want, but super speed or flying would still be better.
The teleportation is similar to mine. Not just direct teleportation, but the ability to just open up portals to wherever you want to go. Okay. So, if you forget something, if you're on a trip and you forget something, you can just open a portal back home and get it. Traveling would be much easier to do.
Sure.
Not to mention, you could also discover a lot of stuff. Like, it would obviously, the logistics wouldn't make a ton of sense, but you could, open up a portal to, like, the bottom of the ocean and maybe get easier access to it.
Is there
through that? And
I could think of a couple, but is there a specific reason that you would choose opening a portal versus just self-teleportation?
So, I mean, assuming if it's just self-teleportation, can you teleport other things if you're touching them? If they're in your grasp?
Let's say if you're touching other things, you can teleport them with you. Only if you choose to. Like
only
if you choose to.
I still think the portal would be kind of cool because you could also make sure you know where you're going, technically.
Okay, fair enough.
you don't want to be thinking, all right, I'm going to teleport here, a place you haven't been in a long time, and it turns out you teleport like directly into a wall or something if they build a new building.
Fair enough. Okay.
Opening a portal would help with that. Plus, I feel like it would also be easier if you have like a big group of people or something, you can just, travel through that.
Interesting.
Teleporting would be cool, but like if you touch this table, you take this table with you. You don't know exactly where you're going to land, but with a portal, then you could just open it up and just literally just slide it right through.
Well, respect the answer.
What if you just open up a portal? What if it's like -2 degrees? You just open up a portal to the beach and let some that nice fresh air come in. You know what I mean?
So you thought of uses for this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like kind of like a sunroof, to literally anywhere.
Interesting.
Exactly.
That's a good take on that.
So let me get to my mind thought out here.
Your mind thought?
Mind thought.
Cruise ship. Cheaper to book a cruise and stay on the interior of a cruise ship with no windows. Now you can have a cheap cruise and the window inside, fresh air.
Boom. That's genius.
Absolutely.
Or better yet, just open up a portal onto a cruise ship and don't even pay.
Absolutely.
And they wouldn't know.
That's true.
Just walk right on and walk right back out. You can stay at your own house.
Exactly.
That's true.
I like this.
Yeah. I'm liking this portal.
But the more I think about it, the more I like it.
I mean, and obviously, flight or speed or strength, those are pretty common answers, but those would be really cool. I feel like those are all just enhancements of
when you realize
certain
what you
things
can
we
really
enhance
do
what we
with
can
some
do.
of these powers, like with super speed, if you depending on how fast you are, like people say, oh, I want super strength. Yeah, but if you're fast enough, it doesn't make a difference.
Right, you're going with enough force.
You really need a group like the Incredibles with a family, and everyone has something different.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So-
Or the Fantastic Four.
Portal.
Or, yeah.
I'll fly. He's speed.
Yep. Makes sense. This is one that I heard the other day, and I'll admit, if we would be doing like rapid fire questions, and you had asked me this, I would have gone with a very quick answer. But actually sitting and talking about it, I realized that it's a really tough decision.
Okay.
I don't know if you'll fully grasp the weight of this decision quite as much, but I know you will. Would you rather have, in both of these two options at their full potential,
Okay, full potential.
would you rather have Thor's hammer, Mjolnir,
Okay.
or Iron Man's suit, the Iron Man suit? If you would have asked me and we were doing rapid fire, I would have very quickly, resoundingly said, "Oh, Thor's hammer, of course."
No, I would have said Iron
But
Man's suit.
the more I think about it, I'm also going to
No,
go
so
with the Iron Man
you
suit.
and obviously you are worthy to lift the hammer if you have a hammer.
Yes.
I mean, realistically, what can it do? You can use lightning and you can fly, but if you
Right.
have Iron Man's suit, like you can do so much. Not to mention, I mean, you can also lift heavy things. Like it's just the ultimate
I
machine.
think it's just cooler.
Yeah.
Like walking in an Iron Man suit versus walking. I mean, the whole worthiness thing, walking in with Thor's hammer would be pretty
That would be
dope
cool.
too.
Yeah.
Now, if you would be asking me about Stormbreaker, which is his axe that he gets in Infinity War, I might choose that one over because that has a lot more power. It also can teleport you. It summons the Bifrost, so that kind of I feel like that would trump most of what the Iron Man suit could do. But in general, I think the Iron Man suit is just cooler.
It's,
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
Neater, cooler.
With especially with the nanotech that he has now.
Yeah. I mean, would you also have to be able to like understand how to fix it, or like would you just be given that
Let's
knowledge?
just assume. I mean, either way, let's just assume that you kind of know everything.
All right.
There
Well,
is
if that's the case,
and
then
just functions properly.
Right.
You have any other would you rather's? I have a couple more that we can do here, but
if you, I guess that kind of goes to the other things. I was gonna say if you could have like one, like, item from any of the worlds, what would it be of any movie? But I guess that's kind of what we already did.
it's very. I mean, it's the other one's a would you rather. This one is more specific.
Yeah.
It would be tough because I really do want to hold a lightsaber, but at the end of the day,
What practical uses would it have?
at the end of the day, I feel like the Stark suit could make a pretty decent replica of a lightsaber that I could at least get that sort of feel. But yeah, I mean, I think the Stark suit would be. Well, actually, the Infinity Gauntlet. Full stones in
Full
hand,
stones
because
in
then you can kind of do whatever the heck
You
you
can
want.
do literally anything.
Don't really have to have any consequences.
all
Assuming
except-
it doesn't kill you.
I'll accept one stone, because when you have all the stones is when it's like.
Well, let's just
about
say
to
you,
kill
that
you.
you don't die.
Okay.
Anything specific for you? Just
No.
yeah. Probably don't have as much
No.
to pull from, but as we do. So here's one. Between Star Wars, Marvel, we'll say the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
Into you.
Lord of the Rings. Let's just go with those three. Between those three, this is going to be much less hard for you. Between those three, you have to erase one from existence. You remember that they existed, and you remember how much you love them, but you don't remember them. You can't replay them in your head. You
And
have
you never
to get
get
rid
anything
of
else
them,
again.
and they're never making anything else again. It's kind of like they never existed, but you feel the loss. You feel the full weight of losing that particular series.
All right.
I'm going to start with
Lord
Lord
of the
of the Rings. And I assumed you would go there. I too have to go there. Not even because I actually think, objectively speaking, the Lord of the Rings is a better franchise than Star Wars at this point.
I think it's honestly better made.
Because maybe not The Hobbit, but the first three Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, one of those was nominated for 20 Oscars or something like that.
It
It's
has hardly any CGI. Like, for the things that are literally impossible to have exist.
It has a lot of CGI in it, actually, but it's good CGI. Whereas The Hobbit,
I mean, when you think of the
kinda
entire orc
falters
armies, those are all actual people in
Right.
serious makeup and stuff.
But for me, there's just a lot more to Star Wars, specifically some of the newer shows that have come out. And even as much as I don't love the prequels or the sequels, there's still a lot to enjoy there.
I think
and I couldn't get rid of Marvel. I would also get rid of Lord of
as
the
much as Lord of the Rings is my favorite movie of all time, I think that it has run its course. I have seen the movies.
That's not what Amazon Prime thinks.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. But I don't expect to see other than that, obviously, the new show.
Sure.
There's not a ton that I feel like they can really do with the series to make it feel anywhere the same. Whereas
Just kinda
Star
wanna let it
Wars,
rest.
right? Whereas Star Wars and Marvel are still going like almost full swing. So like, I want to see where that's going. Plus,
Sure.
the world, there are more movies to it. It's not just like a single trilogy kind of thing.
Okay.
So, honestly, Lord of the Rings, as painful as
As
that
painful
is,
as
like,
that
that's
is,
literally
yeah.
so painful to think about.
What is a movie that has not a standalone movie that has not gotten a sequel that you'd like to see get a sequel,
Ooh.
if any, John?
I gotta think. Hold on a minute.
I have an answer in my brain, and we're gonna do. Let's do these kind of quicker rapid fire, not without thinking too hard about it. For me personally, it would be Megamind. Movie from
That's
DreamWorks
good.
came out 2010, 11, I think. And actually, I think they just announced that it might be getting one here
Ooh.
pretty soon, which I'm excited about because it was a pretty decent movie when it came out. I enjoyed that one. Anything particular?
The main one that honestly comes to mind, Bug's Life.
Ooh.
I thought about that one.
Because, I mean, you think about it, a lot of Pixar and Disney movies have already had sequels.
Sure.
Bug's Life is like a classic, and I feel like they could do more with it.
Sure.
It's been so long that I feel like it would also be deserving of one, and it's just a good movie. I just love to see more of it.
Disagree that it's clear that they could do more. I feel like it'd be interesting to see more. I'm not sure what they could do. I'd be interested to see it.
Well,
But I don't think it's immediately clear. I think something like
I don't know if it's immediately clear, but I still think there are plenty of possibilities for things they could do.
it's one of those things. I know some people kind of want to let things rest. I like sequels more generally than the original movies.
Do you?
With generally, generally speaking, because I like to see the progression of characters coming
Sure,
back
sure.
from where they've been. I'll admit that most sequels aren't as good as the originals, but that's why when there is a good sequel, I really like that sequel, which is going to kind of lead into my next question a little bit. But
I don't have any. I can't think of any that don't have a sequel already that I would want to see.
I like I think his is the best answer because Bug's Life I've always thought like you gotta forget about that one. Pixar like even you can think of like the worst Pixar movie everybody cites as Cars 2, whatever, that's your own opinion, but people honestly forget a lot about Bug's Life because
I forget about it all the
it was
time.
the second one that they did. My second my final question is, and it's kind of two questions in one, but they both have to do with each other. What is a franchise that is continuing that you want to see them let rest and put it to sleep? And also then, what is a franchise that has been put to sleep that hasn't really done anything that you actually would kind of like to see them bring back? I don't know if there's anything for you, John.
That's a good question, actually. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think most things are pretty, like there's certain different series that I'd love to see more of, like honestly Cars, even Toy Story. I'd love to see more of, but I feel like they've run their course and they're fine to just leave alone, that you don't need to do anything with. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd maybe Monsters Inc.
Okay.
I really like that world, like the whole monster world they have. And I
Well,
feel
they
like
are
there'd
doing a
be
new
some
show,
things.
technically.
Right, which I am excited about, but it's still like, I don't know, I just want to see more of that.
I can see that.
But
As far as the thing that I want them to let rest,
Star Wars.
I want them to let Fast and Furious rest because they went to space in the last one.
yeah, car.
And
car.
the series used to be about car races, and then it turned into something completely different.
Fair.
But I
Family.
think Fast and Furious needs to calm down. I will actually say Mission Impossible is one of my favorite movie series. I think that after and I think they've said that the last two movies are going to be the final ones in the series, but like, please don't bring it back after that because I don't think the second movie's kind of weak, but I don't think there's a bad movie in the entire series.
Yeah,
It's the longer you go, the more chance that that's going to happen.
leave good enough alone.
As far as one that I actually want to see continue, and this is sacrilegious to 99.9% of the fans of this series. I actually think that it would be possible to bring Back to the Future.
I knew you were going to say that.
Back to the Future is my favorite trilogy of movies. And I know that people are saying let it rest, and I'm like, yeah, I agree. But that sort of story of a modern-day teenager going back in time and seeing what life was like 30 or so years before him, meeting his parents, I feel like that's something that can be renewed and be interesting again. Because it's not... I don't want them to go back to the 1950s. I don't even want them to go back to the 1980s. I want, starting now, 30 years ago, go back to the beginning of the 90s.
Right.
If they make this in 8 years, go back to 2000s, like the time where I was born. Seeing that, I think, kind of would be new enough, so long as you don't do the classic, reboot tropes, so to speak, of, changing a bunch of things and trying to add your own lore that doesn't make sense. If they did it right, I actually think it could be pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm serious about letting Star Wars rest.
Oh, you're serious about
in all seriousness,
Okay.
I have never watched all the Star Wars, Lord of the Rings more than like maybe 10 minutes, and Marvel more than just maybe like 2 of the movies in the series.
Okay.
So, in all honesty, any of them can rest, and I would not be disappointed. Now, that's probably against everything that everyone else is thinking.
I think, to be fair, if
But
you had
I haven't
seen
seen. I've seen
any
them.
of them, you probably would
I would
disagree, but yeah.
But considering not seeing them, like I don't feel like I'm left out
Right.
of them.
Right, that makes sense.
Sure.
Make it all
I
rest.
can also
All
also
three of them.
imagine if you're not a part of any of it, hearing about it all the time probably
It's okay.
doesn't
All three
make
of
you
them-
love.
All 3 of them can rest.
all three. No
alright,
more
go to sleep. It's
blockbusters.
okay.
No more blockbusters. All right. Well, I'm sure there's a million other topics we could cover on the subject of movies. So if you enjoyed this, maybe we'll do another episode like this sometime. Obviously, not going to do that soon because we want to keep doing different topics. But we want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you're a movie that's coming out, and I'd like to sponsor an episode, we will do the topic of movies again, just to get you to sponsor, but we don't have to do that. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. We need a sign off. We need some sort of sign off. That's it. No, that's it. On the spot. All right, sign off as everybody on here goes. All right, 3, 2, 1. That's stupid. but I
That's
like it.
pretty bad.